Okay, so this is something a little different. I wanted to talk about jit.gl.path, and after doing all that jit.gl sketch stuff, I was just looking for other ways to do like lines and drawing with lines, and so I started looking at jit.gl.path, and for a while I didn't understand it because in the help file for it, right off the bat, they throw this like equation in there, and that gives you the shape of it, and then you can play with the attributes, which, you know, kind of changes the look of it. But I was looking for ways to control the positioning and generate paths, and in the editing tab they show you how you can kind of edit it manually, but it seemed just kind of overwhelming to think about editing every single point manually. So what I ended up coming up with was a setup where I send a matrix through jit.gen just to get some points. The sign normalized coordinates, they go from -1 to 1. So I send that through here, I scale it, and I make that the x value of my point. So for every cell in this matrix, in this case there's 8, so there's going to be 8 points. And I scale the x value so that it goes, you know, it comes in going -1 to 1, so I can make it going like -2 to 2 or whatever with this scale parameter. And then on the y, I just made a noise so that the x goes, you know, from left to right, and then the y is like this squiggly line. I could do something with the z to make it 3D, but I don't have that in this patch, just kept it simple. So it comes out of jit.gen, goes into this matrix just to hold it, and to repeatedly send it out with the drawbangs that come out of jit.world. That goes through, lock this for a sec, it goes through jit.slide, which just makes it so you can change one matrix to another gradually over time with this slide parameter. That's just, I can't even select it, there's too many patch cables. Anyways, so this is tied to jit.slide, and that goes to the path, so that the path changes gradually from one set of points to another, and I have 4 here. So when you hit the bang here, I get 4 paths that go, you know, left to right and squiggly on the y-axis. I have them all rendering to this node, so I can kind of move them around as a group. And when you send new points, because of the slide, they all slide to those new points. So I like that look a lot of these just different paths all kind of moving sort of together. And this is kind of cool when you use the eval. Oh, I'm missing one there. I don't know why that's missing there. Let's see. Eval. Let's go into 3 of them. It's missing this one. So eval out. There we go. So there you go. And then eval in just kind of comes at it from the other direction. I'll show in this other patch, I automated that to have these kind of random vines growing and crossing the screen. You know, and with path you can make it tube, and it's all crazy, and then if you bring this extrude scale down, you get some 3D tubes. And you can animate those. That's kind of a cool look. And then I thought, I want to apply materials and lighting and stuff to this to make it look different. So let me open up another patch and show that. Lines, 2 lines. Okay, so immediately after coming up with that other patch, I have the 4 jit.gl.path objects, and I thought I want, however many I want. So I put them into a poly tilde, which lets you create, as many copies as you want, and then I just kind of set that up. I've got the path in here. All the attributes I can send to all of them at the same time. They each have a little material so that I can put lighting on the scene, and they're affected by that. I can set their color. I can set the time for the slide. And let's see, I changed this around a little bit so that instead of just being noise on the Y, this one isn't 3D, and I have it set up so that it's kind of how much it's going to deviate from a straight line. So if I come out here, go from the top, there we go. So similar to the other one, it's going from -1 to 1 on the X, -1 to 1 on the Y, -1 to 1 on the Z. So it's going diagonal, like on all 3 of those axes. And oh no, it's not. I'm not doing the Z. Never mind. I'm wrong about that. But I'm scaling it on the X and Y. So that's why it's diagonal. It's -1 to 1 on X, -1 to 1 on the Y. It gives you this diagonal. And like I said, back in the poly, in this jit.gen, I control how much it deviates from that line. And here's the little animation for the eval out and in. So let me set a slide time. The slide time. There it is. So I'll set that to like 20. Okay. It'd be really long and make it kind of this slowly evolving thing. And that lighting is just, that's a bloom. That's jit.gl.path on the whole scene. You can change the lighting for it. I've got a light here, but again, jit.gl light kind of confuses me still. I haven't really figured it out, how to use it properly. This is too much bloom. There we go. Oh. Okay, there you go. So just like the other one, I send a matrix through, goes through jit.gen, where I scale the X and Y. Here they're 1 and 1. Let's see, if I make the Y 0, then it's just -1 to 1 on the X. We'll stretch that out a bit on the X. And here's the deviation. All right, if I make it a whole bunch, then they're all over the place. If I make it 0, then they settle back down. Actually to a straight line, because it's 0. It's not deviating at all. I'll set it to something like this. Or no, I would have 0.5, that's where I had it. then this is, I made a clip of this where it kind of, this just goes up using the counter. So the deviation goes further and further up and the thing just becomes a mess. Like I commented here, extra control stuff, not critical. So since I'm using poly, I set the number of lines with voices. So if I set it to like 12, there we go. And then I got to set some stuff again, like the slide, my lighting, and then I have a little animation for eval in and out. So as I click through it, it kind of alternates between changing the eval out and the eval in. Now it's going to change eval out. So it goes left to right, eval in, goes, kind of follows it, and then I reverse it. Yeah, so that gives me kind of a nice level of control over the points in jit.gl.path without having to use the like append messages and setting them that way. And one other thing I wanted to show is this GL.path symmetry patch, which I wanted to see how I could make the path, you know, not just going from left to right, but kind of turning in on itself. Just start it and figure out what I have to fix. So I've got that. I could set a spline. Okay. So here I start the same way. I've got, except I'm using a noise to generate random points. With the interp set to spline, you get kind of these nice curves between the random points. Otherwise, right, it's just a bunch of random points and it draws straight lines between them. I've got the spline set, or the slide set, so that it slides between those points. Here I'm just scaling them. There's probably like a smarter way to do that, but I just did it real quick to scale. I gotta use like S norm or something. But the symmetrical part of it is I have these two jit.gl.path objects, and after I come out of the slide, I send the matrix to this other jit.gen, and I multiply each of the points by some value that lets me reverse the points around whatever axis you can do it. Right, so I'm just multiplying them by -1 to invert them. Invert the x points or the y or the z. So let's see, if I set it this way, there we go. So now this matrix that's coming through, the y values and the z values are being inverted. You get this nice, you know, symmetrical, these two symmetrical paths. If I do this and none of them are inverted, this should be the same. Oh well, it's still symmetrical. I had some set up here that I liked, like this one and this one. And then, you know, when you change you can change the dimensions to get more points. So I have 10. Now I'll have 20 points. Just to get a little more complicated pattern, right? You want more complicated patterns. That's what makes the patch good. I had planes set to 2, and that just gives me a 2D drawing. So I'm rendering them to a node somewhere. Yeah, they're rendered to a node here. If I do it in 3D, now it's a 3D path. Let's do tube, bring this down again. Put some lighting on it. There you go. Reset that. There you go. And I did this before I came up with that animation for eval in and out. But that's kind of a nice effect. Okay, so that's, you know, 3 different ways to work with jit.gl.path and create some interesting paths using jit.gen kind of to do most of the manipulation. All right.